This program is a paid commercial announcement from Jacob Media Partners and does not reflect the views of WPHT or its management. Today's program is pre-recorded.
My name is Samuel Price, and I used to be a union carpenter. There's all types of safety risks on the job. You have power tools you have to contend with. You have heights and elevations you have to contend with. I ended up getting hurt on the job, and I was going through the whole process with just dealing with the workers' comp attorneys, doctors, and stuff like that. And I wasn't getting better. So I figured it was about time where I sought out an attorney to help me out with this. Well, what appealed to me when I first met Adam, I tell you, it really didn't take long to really feel comfortable with him. I don't know what it was. I don't trust too many people, but for some reason, when I was sitting down talking to him, and he just felt like he can relate to you, like he's one of us. You know what I mean? This was an average guy doing good things, I guess you could say. Well, if you're looking for results and you're looking for somebody to fight for you, that's the team you want. You want Adam Malamut and Associates.
Jacob Media Partners presents The Adam Malamut Show. Real people, real perspectives, real opinion. It's The Adam Malamut Show, presented by the law offices of Adam Malamut and Associates. Now, it's The Adam Malamut Show, hosted by one of the hardest working attorneys in South Jersey. Real people, real perspectives, real opinion. Adam Malamut.
And welcome in, everyone, as we broadcast to you from the Malamut Studios, nestled comfortably in the law offices of Malamut and Associates. Big show to kick off 2021-2022 as we come to you across the network. Adam, glad to be with you and kick off and kind of initiate the brand new Malamut Studios. They are impressive and they are incredible, sir. Well done.
Joe Rogan has nothing on us, Krause. Joe, if you're listening, you have nothing on us. Krause, you did a great job putting together our new studios. I'm very excited to be here. This is a special day. This is the first time broadcasting from this studio, and I couldn't think of a more special guest to have. First elected to the United States House of Representatives in 2018. His district covers the Delaware River to the Jersey Shore, most of Burlington County, a part of Ocean County. He's a career public servant. Both Democratic and Republican administrations have employed him as an employee in the Pentagon, the State Department, the White House National Security Council. He's worked for USAID. He served in Afghanistan as an advisor to Generals Petraeus and Allen. I feel like I just rattled off the best resume I could come up with, but it doesn't end there, as if I didn't feel like enough of an underachiever yet. He's the son of Korean immigrants, is a Rhodes Scholar, and it is absolutely my pleasure to welcome my dear friend, the Congressman from New Jersey's 3rd Legislative District, Congressman Andy Kim. Welcome, Andy.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here on the inauguration of this studio. This is wonderful.
This is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to get a lot of good information out there today, and hopefully we have an opportunity to get people to know a little bit more about you. So let's dive right in. We talked before the show about a lot of important things that happened this past year, and the country, I think we can all agree, is a little bit different than what we ever thought it would be. January 6th was a different day for you. Let's talk a little bit about what happened January 6th and how that impacted you.
Yeah, well, look, you're right. It's been a really tough year for a lot of different reasons. I think a lot of families are hurting. Our country right now has a level of uncertainty that's out there that's just giving so much anxiety. But what we recognize is not just about us at the individual and family level. Our country as a whole is struggling right now. And I really felt that on January 6th. I mean, I'm somebody that thinks that the Capitol building is the most beautiful building in the entire country. And to see that building in that kind of condition, to see people disrespecting that building and desecrating this temple of our democracy, that was tough. So, for me, having been there that day and trying to think about what comes next. It's this question of how do we heal this country? And that should be something that people are committed to no matter what their political beliefs. That we all recognize that it's not working right now. It's not working well. And we got to find a way to be able to fix that. So, for me, as we're now thinking back on it, I really try to think about that and what role I can play in trying to get things on a better path.
Andy, I remember you and I had a conversation that week, and one of the things that we discussed was this is not a partisan problem. It's not the Democrats, it's not the Republicans. This is an American problem. This is an American institution that on January 6th was under siege by people who are not representative of a political party. It was something that was completely foreign to us, and I think that we were caught off guard because we never thought as Americans that something like this would happen on our soil, in our capital, in what is the most iconic building of government, at least in my mind, in the United States and potentially the world. How this is reconciled for our children's generation and generations going forward is yet to be determined. But that day and in the days following that, you unknowingly were caught on camera helping to literally pick up the pieces. Talk a little bit about what happened and what drove you to really participate in the literal pickup of the decimation of our United States Capitol.
Yeah. I remember very vividly still, it was late at night on the 6th after the riot had been quelled, and I was walking through the Capitol for the first time, and I got to the rotunda, and Adam, I'm sure you've been there before. I'm sure a lot of Americans seen it. It's the most beautiful room in the most beautiful building. It is a room that presidents lie in state there when they pass. This is our chamber. And that day I saw it covered in trash and broken debris. I remember seeing some cigarettes on the ground and I saw where people put them out on the white marble statues. I'm just disrespecting this room. And my heart really broke. I mean, I never wanted to see that kind of situation. So just kind of instinctually, I didn't even think about it. I just, I saw some police officers off to the corner that had some trash bags that they were putting their own dinner into. And I asked them if they had any more trash bags, and they pointed to a roll, and I picked it up and I just started to clean up the rotunda. I just wanted to do something that was going to get our Capitol back into shape. And you're right, I didn't know I was being photographed. I certainly didn't expect this photograph to go all over the country. But I think a lot of people saw in that photograph just a simple and humble act of love for this country and service, and I think that's what we lose sight of right now. I think people are sick and tired of our politics being just about partisan knife fighting and back and forth. And I think people saw in that photo, look, why can't it be more like this? Why can't it be more about service and literally rolling up the sleeves and trying to get things done? So it was a very powerful experience for me to have a lot of folks show that kind of politics is, that there's a hunger for that.
It's interesting taking the politics out of it, but really focusing on the service. The conversations that had been had, not just about you and your participation in the cleanup, but about, I think it brought back memories of 9/11 when so many lives were lost tragically at the hands of terrorist attacks around the country. And the country the next day seemed to embrace one another more. We weren't talking about Democrats and Republicans. We were talking about us as a country uniting and us as a country healing it didn't seem to me that we got that same sentiment after January 6th. What's your thoughts on that?
You're absolutely right. This was not a situation where we pulled together in the way that we needed to. I'm somebody that 9/11 changed my life. That was when I decided to become a public servant, to serve in the serve this country. I was out there in Afghanistan on the 10th anniversary of September 11th. I remember seeing a country that came together. But throughout this pandemic and January 6th, these are actually crises that should have brought us together, but ended up actually dividing us even further. I would say right now that just this, again, partisanship over January 6th is preventing us from just seeing what happened. And I just find that to be frustrating, because I do think that we have become this nation addicted to anger, and we're losing touch with our common good. We're losing touch with what it means to just be American and to see that commonality across the board. And if the pandemic and January 6th are not going to shock that system and get us back to a new rhythm, what else is going to? And that's what I really worry about, especially as I'm a dad of a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. What kind of America are my 2 baby boys going to grow up in?
It's interesting. Just like you, I'm sure that a lot of our listeners have had conversations at their dinner table, and I've had conversations at my dinner table as to what all of this means and the importance of community. And you can't have unity or community rather without unity, and how we can heal as a society. And I do, like you, have hope that we can do it, but it's going to take an all hands on deck approach. It's going to take people disregarding what may be a lever that they pull or have historically pulled at the polls, and a more global approach of what is our legacy going to be for our children and our grandchildren's generation. I just don't know that the response has come quickly enough, or as quick as we would like it to, but I'm certainly not without hope. I just think that we need a greater call to action.
Well, look, we have to have hope. I mean, you got your kids, I got my kids, we got kids and grandkids all over the place. Like, we have to be thinking about for that generation.
That's right.
And, I think we are, and I see myself as a caretaker right now for our democracy, for our country, and eventually we're going to hand it off.
Yeah, we're going to go to break in a minute, but before we go to break, I want to talk about something that, I'm all about celebrating my friends and their accomplishments. And one of the cool things that happened with you this year, and unfortunately coming out of this tragedy, is now you're a part of a national museum. Now, your suit from that evening is at the Smithsonian, is that right?
That's right. The suit that I was wearing on January 6th in that photograph, the Smithsonian asked me if I would donate that to the Smithsonian to help them tell the story. So I donated it to the Smithsonian. We'll see if when they ever put it up, but I look forward to bringing the kids to see that at some point.
That's pretty cool. Well, we're doing great work, and we're able to do it because of people like you, and we appreciate what you're doing. We're going to go to break. When we come back, we want to talk about some of your accomplishments thus far.
Thanks.
This is the Adam Malamut Show. Back in a moment.
Thanks for listening to the Adam Malamut Show. If you need a lawyer or have a legal question, contact Adam directly. Drop him an email, adam@malamutlaw.com.
My name is Samari Cruz, and I am an officer. I've been doing this job for the last 23 years. And even with all the training and experience, the confrontations can get very heated. I was injured, and I was injured extensive enough that I was unable to do my job for a period of time. It was the first time that I was injured that bad. I didn't understand the process. I didn't know who to go and talk to. Working with Malamut Associates was terrific. I felt like I was being listened to. Adam, my first impression, I saw a man of integrity, very driven, like he was immediately on it, like he was willing to help. it made me feel like somebody listened, somebody understood that I was truly hurt and that somebody cared.
He is your radio lawyer. He is Adam Malamut. Welcome back, everyone, to the Adam Malamut Show. A very, very special guest joining Adam for the full hour today from the Malamut Studios. Adam?
We're very pleased to be here. We're very pleased to have my friend, our Congressman Andy Kim, with us today. We started off the show today on a much more somber note, talking about January 6th and the events that followed January 6th. But I want to turn direction. I want to focus on some great things and find out from Congressman Kim some of the things that he's accomplished thus far and the things that he's most proud of. So, Congressman, let's talk about some successes rather than how we started off on some negatives.
Happy to. I mean, I think oftentimes we lose sight of some of the things we're getting done. I know a lot of people see a lot of dysfunction in Washington and in Congress, and look, it's true, but we are getting things done and trying to deliver. You know, whether that's the work that I did on the military, I work on the Armed Services Committee, and there's a lot that I've been trying to do to just get our military and our service members the kind of support that they need. Whether that was giving them the biggest pay raise that they've had in decades, or trying to make sure that we're providing for their families, looking out for military spouses and the challenges that they face with employment. You know, those are some of the key things that I know I've been focused on, while also making sure that it's keeping us safe. It's about our national security. I'm somebody that, again, worked in diplomacy and national security before. I'm very focused on that. So that's been, a huge push that we've been working on. There's a lot that I've been trying to do for small businesses. I'm the only member of Congress from New Jersey on the Small Business Committee in Congress, and it's become this personal mission of mine. I know so many businesses have struggled throughout the pandemic, and a lot have shut their doors in ways that is tragic and devastating, and I'm doing my best to try to keep doors open, get people to support our small businesses and look out for them, whether that's the Paycheck Protection Program, which brought billions of dollars to our small businesses throughout our area. Those are some of the things that I've been really proud of, and always want to let people know there are ways that we can move this ball forward, even during an era of divided government.
Congressman, you've taken great care and great time to learn about the plight of the folks in the hospitality industry. And I think that we can all agree that there probably has not been an industry that has been struck like the hospitality industry. The restaurant owners, to the valet parkers, to the bus servers, to the bartenders, the cooks. I mean, this industry got decimated during the pandemic, and you've been somebody who has proactively gone out and met with folks to understand how it's impacted them, not just from a financial perspective, but a recovery perspective. So not just how they were hurt, but how they can heal. Talk a little bit about that.
It's devastating what they've been through. It really is an industry that has seen the worst of this pandemic. But it's also an industry that we have to make sure succeeds, because this is the lifeblood of our communities. I know so many of us, what we love most about our communities and what gives it its character are the restaurants, the bars, the hospitality industry that is there. And when I go around this district and my community and talk to these owners and these workers, to hear and see what they've been through, it's been tough. And that has really pushed me to try to find innovative ways to be able to help them out. Whether that was efforts through, again, the Paycheck Protection Program or the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. And look, I get it. These programs were not perfect either, but it was getting help out there and trying to move that needle forward. But what they really wanted was just to make sure that we understand their challenges that they face, and that we don't try to make excuses, and instead we try to work with them to address it, whether it was keeping their doors open or the real problems that they had with getting the workforce that they needed. These were real problems, and oftentimes they didn't feel like they had someone listening or a voice, and I tried my best to be that.
And you've talked about this also with, how it's impacted so many other areas. I don't want our friends in hospitality to think that this is something that is just them, and our friends in other sectors, beauty salons, hair salons, they were shut down. I usually take a knee when we talk about hair. I've been told that I don't have the greatest hairline going, so I usually avoid the topic. But the fact of the matter is, there are a lot of people in that industry that were really financially ravaged, and still to this day, because of continuing concerns over the spread of the coronavirus or any variant of the coronavirus, there's restrictions in place that still make it challenging for people to do work. So I know that you continue your listening tours and you're always out there trying to learn more about how businesses and the individuals who make those businesses tick, because I think a lot of people lose sight over the fact that these businesses are driven by individuals, how they're impacted, and what you can do to be helpful. Anything on the horizon that you can share?
Well, we're going to keep at it, because what we know is that it's going to be a long road to recovery ahead. This is not going to be a situation where things snap back to normal. The goal here is not to just rewind the clock to February 2020. What we need to do is find a new century worth of engagement and growth for our restaurants, for our hospitality sector. There were a lot of problems in that sector even before COVID, and this is an opportunity for us to do better and try to make this more successful. So there's a lot that I'm working on to try to provide a longer term level of recovery and assistance that can help and make sure that we're pushing this in a better direction and having it be a more resilient industry for, God forbid, we have problems in the future, that we can make sure that we address this.
So as we talk about moving forward, you and I have had an opportunity to speak on multiple occasions about a lot of the things that you want to accomplish. And I think that when you first got elected, I remember having conversations with you about what you wanted to accomplish then. And since then, I think that you realize that you have to take a more targeted approach, because you really need to put the work in. I don't know that the public understands how much work goes into passing a law or getting initiatives through that really impact people at the local level. So now, from 2018 to now we're in 2021, what is it that you hope to still accomplish? What are your top priorities?
Well, in 2018, for those that might remember what I was talking about, I was talking a lot about what we can do to lower prescription drug costs and make sure that we have the kind of health care that we need and deserve. And you're right, it's hard to push things forward. And in this job, there's a million different things that I can work on. And I always recall this line that my mom taught me, which is that if you try to do everything, you end up doing nothing. So you got to figure out where you can focus. But we've been able to keep up with these issues and these priorities from before. And in fact, right now, I'm trying to get across the finish line. I think I'm almost there. I'll have to get across the finish line major legislation that would lower prescription drug costs for those on Medicare and for Americans all across this country, not just on Medicare. Something that can cap out-of-pocket costs and expenses. So, that follow-through is important. But you got to make sure you stay focused, and you got to think about the actual levers. This is not a job where where that kind of pie in the sky thinking, gets you anything tangible. What I need to do is deliver for this district, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do. And choose the right battles and make sure that those are based off of the greatest needs of the community. So that's what I've been doing, and I feel like we've been successful so far, but we have a couple of big things coming up that I really hope we get across the line, because they could be transformative for a lot of seniors, a lot of veterans, a lot of people around this district.
When you talk about the district, you're in a unique position because you represent much more than the district. What you do impacts the entire country. So when people in the Midwest get a benefit as a result of your work, oftentimes the credit doesn't necessarily come back. But as we say here, and as I know you operate, you play for the name on the front of the jersey, not the name on the back of the jersey. And that benefits everybody nationwide. And I say this because one of the other things that you and I discussed before coming on the show is the phenomenal response you've gotten across the country and support you've gotten from people in Hollywood to, I remember events for you early on in your legislative career, and more recently where you've had literally people from around the country recognize your good work. And it's challenging because everybody has a little bit of a different need. But at the end of the day, this comes back to the theme that we talked about earlier. It's not a Republican problem or a Democratic problem. Your running theme has been it's an American problem. And that's how you try to serve your bosses, as our good friend Troy Singleton, Senator Singleton, refers to his constituents. That's how you try to serve your bosses.
You're right. I think there is really that hunger, as I said earlier, for a different type of politics, one that's grounded in service. And the fact that I worked under both Republicans and Democratic administrations as a career diplomat, I always say, when I was out in Afghanistan, no one there asks you if you're a Democrat or Republican. You're just serving the country. And that kind of mission focus, I think is the way I describe it, is what we're trying to get done. And you're right. People all over this country have been excited about what I'm working on, and we know that we live in a time right now that what happens in New Jersey affects people in Texas, affects people in Nebraska, and all over this country. So, but what I do need to make sure is that I remember who it is that I serve and who it is that I work for, and it's the people of my district. And whether they voted for me or not, they're my boss.
And there's people that have supported you that you've recently taken an adverse position because you don't believe that it benefited not just your constituents, but the American public as a whole. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Your radio lawyer, Adam Malamut, will answer all of your legal questions. Contact him directly at his law firm, Malamut & Associates, or drop him an email, adam@malamutlaw.com.
My name is Ivan Taki. I'm a Philadelphia born and raised artist, entrepreneur. Been doing this for 27 years. I got pulled over by an officer and I was wrongfully accused for something that I didn't do. So at that moment, I didn't think of nobody else to call but Adam. It's something about the way Adam himself is that makes the rest of the team play the same way. You want to have somebody that you can trust, somebody that you believe in, somebody that's fighting for you in that situation, and to know that you're in good hands. And when you feel that confidence and you feel that love and you feel that respect, that you're not just a number, that they're actually taking a little bit extra oomph and extra love, then you know that you're in good hands and they're looking out for your best interests, whatever that may be.
And back here on the Adam Malamut Show as Adam broadcasts from the Malamut Broadcast Studios with a very, very special guest, a full hour with Congressman Kim. Adam?
I'm so pleased to have Congressman Kim with us today. It's a true honor to have not just a friend, but a congressman who has shown selflessly his dedication to helping to get our country back on track. And as we took a break, we were starting to talk about Congressman Kim and his dedication to really serving the people, not the party. And this past week, there was a huge departure from what a lot of folks think is the standard party politics. Speaker Pelosi made a very vocal stand against a ban on legislators being able to stock trade, being able to invest in the market. And I actually learned of Congressman Kim's response via social media, which we'll talk about in a moment. But what struck me is Speaker Pelosi is somebody who has been a very vocal supporter of Congressman Kim, a financial supporter of Congressman Kim. But what happened this week completely delineates the prior support from what Congressman Kim, in my mind, at reading what he wrote, believed was what's right for the Americans and what's right for his constituency. So, Congressman, let's talk about what happened this week with Speaker Pelosi and her objection and your objection over her objection.
Well, look, this is a situation where I'm just following my heart and following what I think is right. I think that a lot of people in my district, a lot of people all over the country, they're sick and tired of politics as it is now, there are honestly people in my district, they have problems with both parties. And a big reason why is they just don't have trust anymore in this process. And they think that a lot of politicians are just looking out for themselves, whether that's for personal gain or political gain. And that erosion of trust is a huge problem right now for us to be able to have the kind of effort we need. So when I hear Speaker Pelosi say that she doesn't think that there should be a ban on members of Congress investing in individual stocks, I disagree. And I wanted to make sure that she and others heard that. I think that there's a lot of concern for a lot of different reasons why members of Congress should not be able to trade stocks, whether that's of the information that we know or whether that's about the conflict of interest, as we're constantly voting on issues affecting all different types of industries and sectors out there. We need to make sure that the people know that we're working for them. And this putting in a ban on trading individual stocks is a important way for us to show that we're focused on them and that we're not going to be focused on our own personal or political gain.
And it's transparency, right? It all comes down to transparency. For years, either party has been involved in a complaint over transparency, whether it was an unwillingness to give up documents, tax returns, whatever it is. There's always been a cloud over transparency, and this kind of removes one layer of that, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, I think so much of what we need to do right now is that have that transparency and let people see what is actually happening. And that's a big reason why I work in the way that I do. You know, I've now have just done 45 town halls in my time in Congress so far, just going out there and talking to the people. Every single day I have a report out of what my schedule was, what meetings that I had, just to be able to have that transparency so people know what I'm up to. And I think because I think people feel so detached from their politics and their representatives in government. So we need to fix that and heal that divide, restore that trust in order for us to get anything done. That's why it's so important right now.
So there's three areas that I want to talk about. You and I could talk, oh my goodness, we could talk for days about things that you've done, things that you want to do. You and I are both political geeks in a sense that we can sit down and kind of spitball on any district in the country and what should or shouldn't happen there. And but
we certainly have our opinions.
we do. And you know, right, wrong, or indifferent. You know, one of the beautiful things is our ability to share our opinions, whether we agree or disagree. We always seem to come out of it a little bit more knowledgeable based on that dialogue. But I want to focus on three main areas that you've put a lot of work into and talk about what's been done and what you see coming in the future. One of the areas, and let's start with this, is clean drinking water. Clean drinking water is such an important part of our society that has been taken for granted because, you know, we don't have third world issues. We have infrastructure. But let's talk about clean drinking water.
Huge issue. This is something that all of us think about. It's literally the thing that separates our world from a lot of developing worlds that I've in countries I've been visiting in my time as a diplomat is, you know, being able to have that clean drinking water. You know, I think whether it's, you know, lead in our pipes or, you know, there are these new chemicals, well, not new, but ones that we've been talking about more, these forever chemicals, PFAS, PFOA, which we're starting to see seeping into drinking water here in our area and elsewhere. It's something that we have to take on because this has a huge impact. I think about, you know, the water that I give to my kids to drink or brush their teeth. And, you know, there have been times where I've had to use bottled water to be able to brush my kids' teeth because of different alerts that are out there in terms of the safety. And that's just not something that we should be worried about. You know, New Jersey gets a C rating when it comes to clean drinking water. That's not good enough. So, you know, these investments in infrastructure that we're trying to do, you know, this major investment we're trying to do right now to get these lead pipes out of our country, to be able to invest in the kind of testing and treatment That's the kind of stuff that I have been fervent about in terms of pushing forward on, because it's the right thing to do, and it's going to be a huge issue if we don't tackle it.
Tony Dralis, who's an environmental law subject matter expert, and I had dinner with you, oh my goodness, it was probably 2 years ago. And I'll never forget that night, not because of just the great company and the dinner and you running out from a voting session. It must have been at like 10 o'clock at night when we planned on having dinner at like 7. But
it was raining like crazy, too.
It was that's what I was going to say. It was raining like crazy. So I couldn't get a cab. I didn't have an umbrella. And I was wearing a suit that I think that I've since abandoned, but it looked like a wetsuit by the time I was done. And for those that are viewing us via video, I'm sorry for the visual. For those that are listening to us on the radio, picture somebody different than me. But it was a very unflattering look and a very uncomfortable feeling. But back then, we were talking about creating standards because prior administrations weren't interested in the environmental issues that we have, the global warming issues, those types of issues. They weren't interested in them, but that's something that you took great interest in, is pushing standards, right?
We need that right now. You know, I just the other day was in Willingboro, and people were asking me about clean drinking water, and they depend upon local officials and experts to let them know what to do. You know, that people were they were besides themselves. They're just like, what do we do? What am I supposed to feel about this? How bad is this? And so it's up to us to really make sure that we're informing them and giving them a sense of what's right and wrong, what is good and bad. So you're right. You know, we need to make sure we're pushing on that.
So you've talked earlier about military service members and your commitment to them. Let's touch on real quickly where you hope to continue to improve their lives and benefits for them.
You know, there's this one. I've had a couple of service members and veterans that I've gotten to know that have had huge problems when it comes to mental health, continuing to struggle from their time back from combat. Some of them have even taken their lives, which is such a tragedy. And you know, this is something that I spoke directly to the Secretary of Defense about just a couple weeks ago, just saying we got to take this seriously. I think so often the Pentagon rushes to me and to others on the Armed Services Committee whenever they need something fixed on an aircraft carrier or a fighter jet. But where's that urgency for our service members? Where's that urgency for the people that put their lives on the line? They're the ones flying that fighter jet or on that aircraft carrier. So I want to see that. I want to see us prioritize our service members, our military and our veterans with the same level of urgency as we do with the hardware. We should be doing it even more so than the hardware. So that's what we're trying to do right now and push for.
All right. So we're running out of time, but there's a couple other items that I want to run by you real quick. Mm-hmm. Very important. Major League Baseball lockout. As a former baseball player, how's this thing going to end?
Oh, I don't know, but look, I mean, we're all losing because of it. You know, I want to make sure my kids can grow up watching the Phillies and watching this go forward.
So, if you are not already following Congressman Kim, you can follow him on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Andy Kim NJ. Andy Kim NJ on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you'd like to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram at attorney_Adam_Malamut, MALAMUT, or on Twitter at Adam S. Malamut, ESQ. Andy, it's been absolutely awesome having you here today. Our studio grand opening. I couldn't think of a better first guest. Thank you for coming out today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Adam. This has been fun.
So I want to leave our listening and viewing audience with a thought. Kindness, compassion, inclusion, acceptance, equality, and decency should not be subject to political leanings. And this is a common theme that we talked about today. Think about what you're doing to make the world a better place and whether you can do more. I want to thank everyone for joining us. Krause, thank you for your work as usual. And I hope everybody will join us again.
This is the Adam Malamut Show. Real people, real perspective. real opinion. See you next time, everybody.
Thanks for listening to The Adam Malamut Show, a Jacob Media production. If you're interested in learning more about the power of the radio hour, contact Joe Kraus at 267-261-3428.
This program is a paid commercial announcement and does not reflect the views of WPHT or its management. Today's program has been pre-recorded.